everyone. We're going to get started here on our Legislative Day webinar. Thanks so much for coming. Just a note that I am recording this webinar for those who might not be able to attend so that they can view this at a different time. So just a note, please don't type in the GoToMeeting chat box. If you have a comment or question, if you could make sure to type that in Slack, or you can just speak out, unmute yourselves and speak out. But if someone could just confirm that sound is good with us right now on Slack, just to confirm that you can, or just say out loud that you can hear us. We don't mind hearing your voices at any time, just to confirm that you can hear. Great, thank you, Sharon. Okay, so just quickly, and again, just keep your phone or computer on mute, which I see most of you are doing. It can be really distracting if there's background noise, if someone's typing or talking in the background, so just make sure that you're muted. Again, we're trying to encourage people to not type in the GoToMeeting box because during some of our calls, it's hard for us to read what is typed in there, so just go ahead and type on Slack in the webinar chat box. And if anything goes unanswered during this meeting, please always reach out to me if you have any questions or comments. So today we're just going to be covering Legislative Day. Some of you have attended in the past. Some of you, this will be your first time attending. So this is really just to give a snapshot of the day, cover some logistics, and give time for you all to ask any questions. So just starting off with a quick overview of what State Legislative Day is. This is a time when specialists and a few student leaders from each program across the state come to Lansing and they meet with representatives and senators from their districts and possibly some other districts as well. This year it will be taking place on Tuesday, February 13th from 9 a.m. until around 2:30 p.m. And this is in the Mackinac Room at the Anderson House building, which many of you should be familiar with at this point. That's where our events are whenever we're in the Mackinac Room, or I'm sorry, in the Anderson House building. And so the purpose of this event is really focusing on that citizenship piece of our mission and vision. So I forgot to include a mission and vision slide in this webinar, but as you all know, part of our mission is to equip young adults with the skills to overcome barriers and to win in education, employment, and in citizenship. So we're really helping those students to develop leadership and citizenship skills, learning about the legislative process, exposing them to Lansing and the Capitol, and then in addition to that, we're connecting youth to legislators so that legislators are learning about our programming directly from youth and from you all, and seeing and hearing about the impacts of what JMG is and the programming that you all are doing. So that's just kind of a snapshot of what the day is. This is a tentative schedule for this Legislative Day. We are going to be running it a little bit differently than last year. So those of you who've attended in the past, something that we intentionally wanted to change this year is to have a little bit less downtime. So if you just look at the schedule here, 9 o'clock is the arrival and breakfast time, and 9:30 is when we start the hardline time of welcome and introductions. And then depending on what time your first representative meeting starts, most of them will probably be starting right around 10. So just to note for those of you who are new, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, each of you will receive either in advance, or, well, probably in advance and upon arrival, an individualized schedule for your program. So your schedules are not going to look exactly the same because your program will be meeting with representatives and senators depending on where your program is located. So the schedule will be tailored based on when those legislators are available to meet, so that's going to look different for each program. However, what we will have this year is that all groups will have 2 meetings with 2 different representatives in the morning at some point. Then there will hopefully be a little bit of time for self-guided tours of the Capitol building or of the Capitol in general. There will be lunch, and then there will be 2 different meetings with 2 different senators in the afternoon. So just a note for this is that some of you, again, may have experienced this in the past. You will definitely, your youth and you will meet with your representatives from your area. So for example, if you are, let's see who we have. So like Jocelyn is from Hartford High School. She will definitely have a meeting with her representatives from Hartford High School, as well as the senator that represents that area. But then her second meeting will be with a representative or a senator who might not necessarily be from that area. The purpose of this is just to really give youth an additional opportunity to meet with other legislators, practice those public speaking skills, essentially have more time to be meeting and talking and engaging during the day, as opposed to kind of just having downtime. And then additionally, your youth will most likely be paired with another high school or out-of-school program or so on. They may be from your affiliate area, so it may be another group from, youth from Lansing might be paired together, or it might be a crossover depending on the legislator's district. So, for example, your youth, if they have a legislator or senator that also represents a different affiliate group, your youth might be in a meeting with some students they've never met before. So that's just something to keep in mind. We ask that you're kind of flexible. The state takes a lot of kind of like puzzle pieces and moving pieces when we're planning, and we know that a lot of your youth really enjoy that piece of the day, is meeting kids in different schools. So that is something that will most likely happen this year. But again, you will get that information ahead of time. So that's just a general tentative schedule. Again, you will all have individualized schedules that you'll know exactly where you need to be, details on the location of those offices, how to get there, and so on. Just a few things to keep in mind moving forward with the day. Something that we're going to try and focus on more a little bit this year is that your students, well, sorry, I'll go to that point in a second. Your students were great with this last year. So just make sure that they come prepared to share about their experiences and successes in the JMG program. That's really kind of what we're asking them to share about when they are actually in the meetings. This is also an opportunity for them to discuss concerns they would like to bring attention to in their own communities. So that's really the citizenship piece here and the legislative process. So helping your youth to understand what is a legislator there for. What, helping them to understand that they are elected officials who are working for them. So if there's a concern that your youth have, this is a great opportunity for them to develop those leadership skills and citizenship skills and bring that attention, bring the attention of their legislator to those concerns. We have had different examples in the past of youth that have actually informed their elected officials of concerns in their communities that have actually impacted change. So this is just kind of a great example of having our youth advocate for themselves and their communities. So the more prep work you can do ahead of time, the better. So that kind of goes into the second piece here. Please do some pre-work with your students and helping them to learn and know who their legislators are and the legislative process itself. So I will send you all a quick PDF bio of the legislators that your youth will be meeting with, so both your representative and your senator. Please have your students take the time to read their bios, know their names. If you need help with name pronunciation, maybe look it up. There might be some kind of pronunciation guide online or something like that, and kind of discuss the legislative process with them. It's such a hot button topic right now. I'm sure your youth have heard about things in the news, and I'm sure they're asking questions anyway, but this is just such a great way for them to get real world examples of it, and just kind of have those conversations with them so they aren't walking into the meeting with no idea who this person is. The more prepared they are, the more they'll get out of the day, but also the more that, the more leadership skills they'll be able to show. So I'll just stop really quickly. Does anyone have any questions so far? Or Curtis and Melissa are also on the call with me. They might have something to add.
Well, I'll add that obviously this will be my first. This Curtis. Obviously, this will be my first time attending Legislative Day. I'm really looking forward to probably I may be as excited as the students are. So really looking forward to this event, and of course seeing all of you again as well.
Thanks, Curtis. Okay, so the third point, and this has never really been an issue, it's just a soft reminder for you all that this day is a day for students to kind of show off their most professional selves. So just beforehand, if you could be sure to discuss with your students expectations regarding professional language and behavior. I think the only thing that we've maybe noticed in the past is cell phone use. Just really, if you could encourage your youth, just don't use their cell phones unless it's downtime. That's just kind of a great, I think, step in the direction of working with our youth on, that balance of when cell phones are and are not appropriate. So great opportunity for you to have that conversation. Generally, we are more than impressed with how professional your youth are during these days and how well-spoken they are. So I'm sure that will be the case again, but just a good chance for you to kind of discuss with them what the expectations are. We will be in a building where legislators are in session and they can go and watch bills being passed or and whatnot. So just being mindful that that's taking place is always kind of important, good for them to have in mind. And so then just some logistical things to think through, and these are some points that over the years we've learned and we hope to refine. So the first one is arrival. As you all have probably learned with coming to events at the Anderson House building, parking can be quite difficult on weekdays because it's in downtown Lansing. We always have this when their legislators are in session, and it can be hard to find parking. So please, please, please make sure that you are planning not just travel time to Lansing, but enough time to find parking and then have your students walk to the Anderson House building and get to the Mackinac room. That could mean that you're parking in a garage a few blocks away. You might need to, talk with your programs about and finding, the cost of what the parking garage would be and so on. But last year, we did run into some challenges when some groups were late because then they were missing their meetings with their legislators, and that is just not a good thing overall for the youth or for our program. It just doesn't make anybody look very good. So please be sure that you are on time. I will send out my cell phone beforehand. If your specialists are caught in traffic, if they're going to be late, we have to have that communicated to us. It's just very unprofessional on our end to schedule a meeting with a legislator and then not show up. So please communicate that to your specialist. Communicate if you are a specialist and you're attending and something happens. I'll send out my cell phone number and communicate that directly to me the day of so that we can troubleshoot that if that happens. In terms of meals, we provide a light breakfast, which is a little bit different in the past. So there will be just some bagels, pastries, and coffee. And we have heard your positive feedback loud and clear that you all really enjoy the hot lunches. Not something we'll be able to provide during the CDC, unfortunately, but for these smaller events, we will have, the nice big meals for your youth, so you can look forward to that. Something else that was a little bit complicated last year with what students should wear. We understand that students like to dress up for these events. The CDC is a perfect opportunity for them to do that. But please do not ask them to dress up for this because our team would prefer that they wear the t-shirts we are providing. So they can just wear jeans or dress pants, or if they want to wear a skirt, they can. But we found that many students, when they were told they could dress up, they were very unhappy about having to wear the t-shirt. So we don't want to send mixed messages to them. This is a day where we want the legislators to, when they're in the building, we want the legislators to know who they are and recognize them. And we are also providing the legislators with a t-shirt as a thank you gift. So just kind of a recognition piece. And then when it comes to shirts, just a really small kind of detail thing here. As we have learned, again, over the years, the shirt sizes run a little small. So keep that in mind when, for yourselves and your youth, you are registering their shirt sizes. And also keep in mind that we only order a few extra of each size. So if a student, if a shirt doesn't fit for a student, or if a student comes who was not pre-registered, we may not have his or her shirt size. So just something to think about. We know that last minute stuff happens, a youth, something comes up and you have to bring someone else in his or her place. That happens all the time, but that just means that we might not have their shirt size, but we do try and order a few extra just in case. That is pretty much all of the upfront information that we have for the day. All managers at this point have received registration forms from me. It's just because, again, like I said, this event is a lot of puzzle pieces and moving pieces. It's just easier for me to receive one registration form from one point of contact. But if you have questions about registration, feel free to ask me. And if you have other questions about the day ahead of time, absolutely reach out to me. And again, we will be sending out confirmations, last minute agendas with the legislator bios and so on in the next coming weeks. But other than that, are there any other questions from you all, or does anybody else have something they just would like to share about the day? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending. Yeah, we appreciate it. I'll be sending out the recorded version of this for any of your specialists or colleagues who weren't able to attend. And we really look forward to seeing you all and your students. And the CDC is right around the corner, so I'll be doing another one of these next week about CDC events. And I'd love to have some of you veterans. I see Jill, thank you so much. I'd love to have you on that call to share, since that event, was not really my area of expertise, and just kind of stepping in right now to plan it. And so next week, those of you who are new to the CDC, absolutely, if you could jump on that call or watch that webinar as well, it will help you to start preparing for that. So we will see you all in a couple weeks in Lansing. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.